It's the 29th of July 2024. This is a brand new edition of Newsfirst Primetime News coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo, bringing you the news tonight. I am Jayamal Ratnayaka for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara, and here are your headlines for tonight.
SLPP to put forward own presidential candidate. Disciplinary action against ministers who diverge from decisions. Demonstration outside the police headquarters demanding to respect the court order. Multiple factions argue it is unconstitutional for the Speaker and Chief Justice to discuss IGP matter. No legal impediment to appoint an acting Inspector General of Police. Sirasa Rajapaksa steps down to run for president. People's Struggle Alliance brings Nuwan Bopage to run for president. Sri Lanka's Ganga secures top spot in the swimming heat at the 2024 Paris Olympics.
Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka decides. Sri Lanka decides.
Tonight's top story. The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Politburo reached a decision this evening to field a candidate for the presidential election under the symbol of the flower bud. The SLPP Politburo convened this evening at former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's residence in Vijayarama.
Party leader Mahinda Rajapaksa, national organizer Namal Rajapaksa, founder of the party Basil Rajapaksa and a large number of members of the Politburo attended the meeting today. SLPP Politburo members spoke to media regarding the decisions reached following today's meeting.
We sought the opinion of the members, and a majority were in favour of fielding a candidate under the symbol of the flower bud for the presidential election. It was also agreed that if anyone acts in violation of this decision, or if a member of the party contests the presidential election without the party's approval, disciplinary action will be taken against them. No. Today we decided that a candidate should be fielded from the party. Over the next few days we will field the most suitable candidate who can win the election from the candidates we are considering at present. The party confirmed that it will field a candidate. If so, the party cannot support the president. If a party member stands on a different stage hereafter, the party will take necessary action. Yes, there were many who were on that stage. Most of them voted in favour of this proposal. I believe we reached the best decision as a party. I think a group from our party will hold discussions with all candidates. We will inform of the decisions in future. 4 to 5 names were proposed for candidacy. We will field the best possible candidate to safeguard our camp. There are people who represented the party in the cabinet who are running for president against the incumbent president. We need to maintain discipline. We were lenient in recent days because of the political uncertainty, but we will be stern on discipline in future.
Former ambassador to Russia, Udayanga Viratunga, convened a media briefing this morning and insisted that the SLPP will not support President Ranil Wickremesinghe at the upcoming presidential election. Over the past few days, first Vajra came to Vijayarama and spoke to Mahinda. When that did not yield a result, Sagala and Susil Premajayantha also arrived. Susil Premajayantha said he wouldn't go to the Rajapaksas but still came to Vijayarama. Yesterday, the new couple also arrived. Ranil and Sagala held talks with Mahinda, and Mahinda ended the discussion after informing them that the party's Politburo will reach a decision and he will agree to it. Namal Rajapaksa stands firm on the stance that the SLPP will only move forward based on the Mahinda Chintanaya.
The stance will not change under any circumstance, and the Rajapaksa family has decided they will not bring the mastermind of the good governance government to the forefront again. Only 52 days are remaining of Ranil Wickremesinghe's term, which means Parliament will be dissolved after 52 days at least. Then the ministers who left should have a party to enter the next Parliament. Today the SLPP is the only party that has a nationwide network and reach. The former district leader of Gampha can't be the UMP district leader by contesting from Ranil's party instead of the SLPP. The former doctor in Gaul can't ask for the district leadership from Vajra, so they will have to return to Mahinda. Ranil Wickremesinghe could not win a single seat, and he was offered the presidency on a platter. If he was grateful, he could have refrained from causing divisions within the SLPP. Ranil Wickremesinghe is responsible for the state of the party. Does Ranil Wickremesinghe have the gratitude to look Gotabaya directly in the eyes today? Many candidates have come forward. Dhammika Pereira has come forward to contest the presidential election based on the SLPP's agreement. If the SLPP agrees, he is ready to contest. My personal stance is that Namal Rajapaksa should be the next Prime Minister.
SB Disanayake expressed the following views regarding the SLPP's majority in Parliament today. Dhammika Pereira is another strong candidate we have. He is someone who possesses a political vision beyond his business skills. But right now I believe the strongest candidate is Ranil Wickremesinghe. At a time when the economy crashed by 7.8%, when no one took up the reins of the country, he had the courage to take up the task with just a single seat in Parliament.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ඉඳගෙන ඔහු ධෛර්යයක් තිබ්බා මේ වෙලාවේ ආර්ථිකය බාර ගන්න එක. පොදු ජන පෙරමුණ තීරණය කරොත් වැරදි හරිය ධම්මික පෙරේරා මහත්මයා හෝ වෙනයම් අපේක්ෂකයෙක් පොදු ජන පෙරමුණ ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා කියලා. නියත වශයෙන්ම පොදු ජන පෙරමුණ දෙකඩ වෙනව නේද? දෙකඩ වෙන්නේ. දෙකඩ වෙන්නේ පොදු.
That will not happen. A few people will remove themselves from the SLPP. Only a few. They will disappear when elections roll over. But I believe that will translate to an additional strength to Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Leader of the opposition Sajid Premadasa says the president must resign from his post if he cannot honour the constitution. He made these remarks while addressing the Samagi Agrarian Convention of the Munaragala district.
The Samagi Agrarian Convention of the Munaragala district was held in Buttala yesterday, headed by opposition leader Sajid Premadasa.
Sajid Premadasa's victory is assured regardless of whether the SLPP names its own candidate or supports Ranil. Do not doubt it. Yesterday Mahinda Ananda claimed there are 40 from the SLPP. Ranil was elected through 134 SLPP votes, not 40. Is there any use of Ranil if he can't muster the support of that 134?
Leader of the opposition addressed the Agrarian Convention thereafter.
They
say it isn't wise to postpone elections. They claim not having a permanent IGP is an issue and that the speaker will discuss with the AG and solve it. Have we ever heard of various people discussing a court order with the Attorney General? This president is only attempting to secure his position through devious plans. We demand the president and his aides, the Prime Minister and Speaker, do not toy with the supreme law of the land and enact the Supreme Court decision. The president placed bonds at the earliest occasion to come up with the excuse that he cannot decide on the IGP matter because he is a candidate. There is no mention of that in the constitution. If you cannot exercise the functions of a president stated in the constitution, you must resign. There are many cash transactions and deals taking place because he is greedy for presidency.
ලොකුවට යනවා සල්ලි ගනුදෙනු ලොකුවට යනවා ඩීල් තනතුරට තියෙන කෑදරකම නිසා.
Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa announced his resignation from his ministerial position as he is contesting the presidential election as part of the alliance led by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Previously, he served as the Minister of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms.
Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa visited the Justice Minister to announce his decision to step down in order to run for the office of President.
එළඹෙන ජනාධිපති මැතිවරණයට මම
Several days ago, I informed that I will contest the upcoming presidential election from an alliance led by the SLFP. On the 25th, I officially announced my candidacy for the upcoming presidential election. At that time, the president had not yet declared his intention to run. However, 2 days later, he announced his candidacy. As a result, we found ourselves as competitors from different political parties within the same cabinet. Given this new dynamic, I reflected on the situation and discussed it. I have decided to resign from my ministerial position to focus on my presidential campaign. Today, I have officially stepped down from my role as minister. My decision to resign from the ministerial post is not unusual. I have previously declined ministerial positions 6 times and have resigned once before. Additionally, in 2017, I was dismissed from my ministerial role. This marks the second time I am resigning from a ministerial position.
අමාත්‍ය ධූරෙන් ඉල්ලාස් වෙන්නේ. ජනාධිපතිගේ අපේක්ෂකත්වයට ඉදිරිපත් කරන නිසා මේක ඔබතුමා මේ ඉල්ලාස්ම කරන්නේ.
Yes, that is the sole reason for my resignation. I have also sent a letter of gratitude to the president.
ලිපියකුත් යවුවා.
ඔබතුමා තනතුරෙන් අයින් වෙනවා ජනාධිපතිවරණට ඉදිරිපත් කරන නිසා. ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ තනතුරෙන් අයින් වෙන්න ඕනේ නැද්ද? එතුමත් ගන්න අපි බලලා තියෙන නිසා.
එතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කරපු තර්කය.
According to the argument presented by the president, and based on your question, he should have resigned before me. He has already declared his candidacy and is running from a different party, not the ruling party that leads the government. If my resignation is deemed necessary under these circumstances, then the same argument should apply to him.
Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa left the Ministry of Justice this evening. Colombo Additional District Judge Chandima Edirimana extended the injunction orders issued to Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa and MP Sarathi Dushmantha Mitrapala. They were elected as Acting Chairman and Acting General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. This order, in effect until the 24th September, prevents them from serving as Acting Chairman and Acting General Secretary. The injunction order also prevents the implementation or enforcement of decisions made by the Acting General Secretary and the Acting Chairman. The defence has been ordered to present objections in the next hearing. This extension comes after reconsideration of the petitions filed by Sri Lanka Freedom Party Treasurer and Minister of State Lasantha Alagiyawanna, National Organiser Duminda Disanayaka and Senior Vice Chairman Mahinda Amaravira.
Attorney at Law Nuwan Bopage was named as the presidential candidate of the People Struggle Alliance.
The People Struggle Alliance announced its presidential candidate for the September poll.
In light of this complex political situation, we wish to inform you that Nuwan Bopage, who has devoted his life to the struggle of the common people, both professionally and personally, is running for the presidential election as the candidate of the Alliance People Struggle. Thank you.
I invite you all to see the faces who are standing with me. These faces only, during last 2-3 years, always represented rights of the marginalized people, at the same time rights of the oppressed, including Tamils, Muslims and hill country people. So they always fought for one policy, that is equality, at the same time to completely annihilate social disparity. Therefore, People Struggle Alliance is before with you with a complete and a comprehensive program which ultimately entire society will be benefited. Therefore, I sincerely inviting you all together with People Struggle Alliance, which is the real alternative at this juncture, which is the real movement that representing rights of the people, which is a real movement that has capability to change the entire system. Therefore, next presidential election is very important, not in the sense that appointment of a president. It is a test of policies. So next presidential election, our alliance decided to name myself as the disseminator or otherwise main character that bringing these People Alliance policy to the doors of the people. Therefore, while holding that responsibility with my hand, together with the People's Struggle Alliance, we are willing to change the entire system.
There are three political parties within this alliance: the Frontline Socialist Party, New Democratic Marxist-Leninist Party, and the Socialist People's Forum. The People's Movement was formed in 2022 following the People's Struggle. Individuals, groups, movements that were committed to the cause have joined this program.
අවංකව කැපවුණු ඒ සඳහා මැදිහත් වුණු සමහර පුද්ගල චරිත කණ්ඩායම් ජනාධිපති සන්ධානය සමග එකතු වෙලා සිටිනවා.
The power of the people.
The constant worry about clean water can be a heavy weight. For 470 families in Nagavila, that weight is no more. A new water purification system brings long-awaited relief and a healthier path forward.
Ranil, the president.
In more news from here at home, Chief Secretary of the Citizens of the People's Struggle Movement, Chanaka Bandara, arrived opposite the police headquarters earlier today, demanding the IGP to act according to the Supreme Court ruling. A tense situation arose at the location following his arrival.
Chanaka Bandara arrived at the police headquarters claiming that he has to deliver a letter regarding IGP Deshabandhu Tennakone. The following scenes unfolded when the police took measures to prevent the protesting Chanaka Bandara.
अपने दांत को कासी लगा दिया मैं एसपी बला करना पूरे का इतना सारे मिलिए तब उनके फीस सुना इसे तब उन एसपी के दिखाऊं दे ऐसे हम ग्रेजुएट करे कैसे हमसे लगा नूगा दिन सुने में अपनी ऐसे बंद गो नादी I have a letter. Take a dinner gill. Dinner gill. No. What? ඇවිල්ලා මෙතන මේ අපේ මූලස්ථාන ඉස්සර එහෙම සද්ද දාන්න බෑ හරිද? ඔයාට සද්ද දාන්න බෑ එහෙම. හරි ජාම් බලන්න එනවා. ඔයා දාන්න සද්ද දාන්න බලන්න ඉස්සපාරන්න කියලා බලන්න. ඔයා මගේ අකට අත තිබ්බොත් බලමු. බලමු. පුත්කලගේ ආරක්ෂාවට වඩා තියලා. එක අත තියලා බලන්න. ආයි කෑ ගන්නවා බලන්න මෙතන. දේශබන්දු. මගේ අයිතිය. මේ යන්න. දේශබන්දු කොහොම කියලා මට පෝස්ට් කරගෙන ඉන්න බැයිද? නෑ ඔය මෙන්නකෝ. ඔය අයි එන්නේ කියන්න ඔයතෙන්ට. මම එන්නේ මගේ අයිතිය ප්‍රකාශ කරලා. ඔයාගේ අයිතියට බාධාවක් නෑ. ඔය අරන් ඇවිල්ලා තිනවා පෙස්සම. ඔයා පෙස්සම දීලා වෙලා ඒක බෝඩ් එකයි ඉන්න. අපි වාසි දෙන්නේ. ඔක දින කොහමද දේශබන්දු යන්නකෝ. හරි. මේ නීලසේන මහත්මයා. ආරාමේ. ඉතමු. ඔව්. රාලාම කියන කින්ද කොල්ල මේ.
Chanaka Bandara addressed the media thereafter.
It is truly shameful to see that the police rallied here like we were terrorists when all we did was try to display a banner saying Deshabandhu go home. The entire country and the world saw how we were unlawfully restrained and blocked. If the top brass of the Sri Lanka police act like primitive terrorists at a time the Supreme Court has suspended Deshabandhu Tennakone, we are left to question the destruction they will cause to our democracy if he continues to be the IGP. We wish to thank and pay gratitude to the media for ensuring that we were not bundled up and taken away.
කුදලකට යන්න ඇවිල්ලා අත්තඩ මොඩ ගන්නක බැරි උනේ මේ වගේ මාධ්‍ය පිරිසක් අද අපවට හිටපු ඉන්න කියන එක මතක් කරමින් මම නිහඬ වෙනවා.
A representative from the International Human Rights Organization visited the Election Commission to inquire about the role of the Inspector General of Police in the presidential election.
ඊයේ දිනේදී ජනාධිපතිවරයා ප්‍රකාශයක් කළා චිත පොලිස්පතිවරයෙකු නැතුව තිවරණ කොමසාරිස්තුමාට සියලුම
Yesterday, the President issued a statement emphasizing that all requests must be directed to the Election Commissioner by a specific Inspector General of Police rather than a Deputy Inspector General of Police or a designated Inspector General of Police. Is this a mere facade, or could it be a deliberate move to delay the presidential election? Can the election realistically proceed without a confirmed Inspector General of Police at present? Furthermore, why did Cardinal and his associates file a total of 9 complaints? All officials from the President's and Prime Minister's residences participated in the struggle. At the juncture, Mahinda Rajapaksa was in leadership. Subsequently, Johnston Fernando and former ministers also made an appearance. However, it all came down to the IGP. Was this intervention a targeted move against the Inspector General of Police? It remains to be seen whether this is a political maneuver or a step taken to curb the prevailing criminal activities in the country.
The Centre for Policy Alternatives noted with grave concern the actions of the President and the government in response to the Supreme Court's interim order restraining Deshabandhu Tennakon from exercising the powers, functions and responsibilities of the Office of the Inspector General of Police. The Centre for Policy Alternatives has expressed serious concern over recent actions by the President and the government in response to the Supreme Court's interim order. The order restrained Deshabandhu Tennakon from exercising the powers, functions and responsibilities of the Office of the Inspector General of Police. The government's reaction, including a formal statement in Parliament by the Prime Minister on the 27th of July, explicitly rejecting the interim order, has raised alarm, and the CPA expressed concern on whether Sri Lanka is on the brink of a constitutional crisis. CPA urges the President to desist from any or all action that traces that prospect. CPA said any attempt to subvert elections and the rule of law will have significant implications on governance and democracy and set back Sri Lanka's path towards economic recovery and stability. Dr. Vijayathasa Rajapaksa commented on President's proposal to solve the issues surrounding the police chief.
Recent media reports mentioned the Chief Justice's collaboration with the Speaker. This approach, outside the democratic framework, diverges from established norms. No other country in the world follows such a practice. While the Speaker presides over the legislature, the Chief Justice holds authority over the judiciary. The central question is that should the Chief Justice be the sole decision maker in a case that was heard by a Supreme Court bench without his involvement? When we discuss judicial independence, the judges are independent. That is why we also have something called dissenting judgments. I do not believe that this can be solved by the Speaker or the Chief Justice. Further, he must appoint an acting Inspector General of Police. As the Defence Minister, Commander-in-Chief and President, this responsibility is constitutionally assigned. Failure to act would constitute a breach of the constitutional oath taken upon assuming office.
The Frontline Socialists Party also commented on the President's proposal.
It is not a mandatory requirement to have an Inspector General of Police in place for the country to conduct an election. In the past, several presidential and general elections have been successfully carried out under an acting Inspector General of Police, even in the absence of a full-fledged Inspector General. However, he raised concerns that without an Inspector General of Police, there may be an increased risk of underworld activities gaining ground. We have already witnessed the increased activity of the underworld with shootings in Aturugiriya and so on. Has the current Inspector General taken measures to address these issues? When the President emphasizes the importance of having an Inspector General of Police to combat underworld activities and ensure a smooth presidential election process, it becomes evident even to a layperson that there may be political motivations at play. As we approach the final days of Ranil Wickremesinghe's tenure, it is essential to urge him to step down gracefully without causing unnecessary friction between the judiciary and the executive branch.
Professor G.L. Pires condemned the President's recent suggestion over the appointment of the country's Chief of Police.
Statement by the President yesterday that the way out of this situation is for the Speaker of Parliament within 7 days to discuss this issue with His Lordship, the Chief Justice. I have never heard of a more preposterous suggestion. If the Speaker wishes to please the President and take this step, then quite definitely, without any doubt whatsoever, he is exposing himself to liability for contempt of court. He is doing something unthinkable. He's going to talk to the Chief Justice about an ongoing case. Now we must also remember that the Speaker has no immunity whatsoever under the Constitution and the laws of this country. He is no different from any other citizen. If he commits a contempt of court, he must bear the full severity of the consequence. The President must act in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. He must now appoint an acting Inspector General of Police. Consequently, this talk of danger of an election petition is absolute nonsense. Total and complete nonsense. There is not a tinge of validity about that suggestion. There is no prospect or possibility whatsoever of an election petition. How can there be an election petition? The Constitutional Council has taken responsibility. It is being done under the full cover and authority of the Constitutional Council.
Former Elections Chief Mahinda Deshapriya also commented.
The President said the IGP exists and his services have been suspended. If he cannot appoint an acting IGP, he should appoint a new IGP. The Election Commission will have to seek the Supreme Court relief similar to the ruling given by Justice Mark Fernando in the case between Udavaruna Karunatilaka and Dayananda Disanayaka in 1998 and remove the obstruction. The Commission will do it and the election will take place. Assume that the presidential election does not take place, this President cannot remain in power after 17th November anyway.
November 17 ඉඳලා විනාඩි 5ක්වත් ඉන්න බෑ මේ ජනාධිපතිතුමාට.
The special committee appointed by the President to monitor security of former presidents and presidential candidates of the upcoming election met the National Election Commission today. Chairman of the National Election Commission RMAL Ratnayaka said the committee updated the commission on security provided to presidential candidates. A group including the Chief of the Defence Staff General Shavendra Silva, Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security Viyani Gunatilaka and the Chief of National Intelligence attended the meeting.
The Supreme Court has scheduled a hearing on the 2nd of August to consider petitions seeking to invalidate the e-visa system connected to the airport. The petitions argue that there is a risk of potential exposure of sensitive national security information.
Members of Parliament Partli Champika Ranawaka, Rauf Hakim and M.A. Sumanthiran filed petitions emphasizing the risks posed by the e-visa system. They argue that this system could potentially expose sensitive national security information threatening the country's security. The petitioners requested an order to cancel the relevant system. The petitions name 32 parties including the Immigration and Immigration Controller, the Attorney General and the Minister of Public Security as respondents.
Three individual fundamental rights applications were filed by us. The court will consider them on Friday. We are also allowed to issue notice on the cabinet.
විකල්ප මාර්ගයකින් කරන්න අපිට අවසර දීලා තිබෙනවා.
මොබිටෙල් ආයතනය තමයි 2011 ඉඳන් මේ කටයුත්ත කළේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ $1 තමයි මේ කටයුත්ත කළේ.
This system was operated by Mobitel since 2011 for a rate of $1. The government is trying to privatize SLT and this new system was introduced at a time when SLT had already put forward a proposal. If this deal went through, the value of SLT would have doubled. This deal had taken away the opportunity to strengthen SLT.
මොබිටෙල් ආයතනයේ වටිනාකම 9 ගුණයකින් ඉහළ යනවා. වඩා හොඳ ආයතනයක් හැටියට ඒකට ශක්තිමත් ඉදිරියට යන තිබිච්ච අවස්ථාවත් මේ ගණදෙනුව හරහා නැති කරලා තියෙනවා.
This is the biggest fraud yet that the country has faced. We informed the court also of that. That's the reason why 3 of us members of Parliament, who are also members of the Public Finance Committee of Parliament, have individually come to court and we have appeared in person to stop this continuation of massive siphoning off of public funds. By this, some unknown beneficiary, we are yet to figure out into whose pockets these monies are actually going. But there are institutions, companies that have been fronted to do this. So we have brought to the attention of court the size of the fraud, and as was already explained, this can be very easily done by other institutions that belong to the state for much less.
The president.
Last month, this time, a world of stories, knowledge and music just out of reach. Sri Gunananda, a small school in rural Sri Lanka, yearning to learn. A new chapter has begun. Classrooms, once quiet, now hum with the joy of discovery, music and stories, sparking imaginations. Gamadda, for the people, by the people.
The president.
The Port of Colombo has been recognized for outstanding growth and performance in the first quarter of the year.
The Newsfirst Finance Report.
The Port of Colombo has achieved landmark recognition by being named the best performing port globally for the first quarter of 2024 by Alpha Liner, a leading information platform for the liner shipping industry, in its latest monthly monitor. This accolade highlights Colombo's growth rate of 23.6%, surpassing all other ports worldwide. Notably, the Port of Long Beach in Los Angeles, with a growth rate of 23.3%, secured second place, while the Port of Tanjung Pelepas secured third place with a growth rate of 22.7%. The first half of 2024 has been particularly impressive for the Port of Colombo. Comparing the performance to the same period in 2023, domestic volumes increased by 19.2%, transshipment volumes grew by 9.6%, and total volume surged by 12.5%.
The Newsfirst Finance Report.
With the issues that have taken place in the Red Sea and also with the Suez Canal, there was a surge of demand at the Port of Colombo. But as you know, we work only with a finite capacity. At the moment, we do about 8 million TEUs. That's the capacity we have. And I'm proud to mention that in the first quarter of this year, we at the Sri Lanka Ports Authority managed terminals, we recorded an increase in managed the terminals volumes of about 25% compared to last year. Overall, the Port of Colombo, the volume increase has been about 20% compared to last year. Even right now, we are facing a lot of demand, because normally the months of July and August there is a high demand. It's a high demand season for the Port of Colombo. As the Port of Colombo with the Sri Lanka Ports Authority and also with the private terminals, we are in continuous discussion with each other, and of course we have proactively looked at all measures that have to kind of address the issues with the surge in demand. And also we have spoken with the CASA, with the shipping that is the authority or the association that represents all the shipping lines in Sri Lanka. And also with their cooperation, we have managed to manage the port demand quite well. And of course, and I'm quite pleased to of course mention that so far, I think compared to the region, also compared to the world, I think the Port of Colombo has done extremely well.
Sri Lanka's Department of National Archives has secured a competitive Dutch grant to lead research into the palm leaf collections in the Netherlands of Sri Lankan origin, with a view to restitution.
The Dutch Research Council has awarded funding to 11 research within the call, research into collections with a colonial context. Dutch museum collections may contain looted objects with a colonial context. This program aims to redress injustice and strengthen trust and cooperation with the countries of origin. Under this program, Sri Lanka's Department of National Archives secured a consortium grant whose knowledge, whose values, palm leaf manuscripts and the question of colonial collections in Dutch heritage institutions. This project addresses the questions of how to come to terms with the colonial past in the present and the role that objects can play in such reconciliation. Taking the palm leaf manuscripts recently requested for restitution by the Sri Lankan state as a case study, the project asks what role objects collected in the colonial past can play in reconciling us to our complex and difficult history. The Dutch Research Council is interested in how these processes of reconciliation may be different movement in Sri Lanka and the Netherlands, and moreover how they weigh the value that these objects may have for different communities across the post-colonial divide. Sri Lanka also secured a consortium grant under WHO's law, addressing injustice in the entangled histories of Sri Lanka, the Netherlands, and advancing the practices of provenance research. The research explores alternative viewpoints of justice and legality as understood and applied in the Netherlands and Sri Lanka at various periods of time in relation to colonial cultural property.
Up next is the world today.
Nicolas Maduro was declared the winner in Venezuela's presidential election, even as his opponents were preparing to dispute the results, setting up a high-stakes showdown that will determine whether the South American nation transitions away from one-party rule. Shortly after midnight, the National Electoral Council said Maduro secured 51% of the vote, overcoming opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez, who garnered 44%. It said the results were based on a tally of 80% of voting stations, marking an irreversible trend. But the Electoral Authority, which is controlled by Maduro loyalists, didn't immediately release the official tallies from each of the 15,797 voting centers nationwide, hampering the opposition's ability to challenge the results after claiming it had the voting acts for only 30% of the ballot boxes. The delay in announcing results, 6 hours after polls were supposed to close, indicated a deep debate inside the government about how to proceed after Maduro's opponents came out early in the evening, all but claiming victory. Opposition representatives said tallies they collected from campaign representatives at the polling stations showed Gonzalez trouncing Maduro. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has vowed to relaunch relations with China as she began her first visit to Beijing since taking office. Meloni met Chinese Premier Li Qiang at the beginning of her 5-day trip and signed a 3-year plan to strengthen economic cooperation between the two nations. It comes after Meloni last year removed her country from President Xi Jinping's signature Belt and Road initiative. At the time, Rome said the massive Chinese investment scheme had failed to bring any benefits to Italy. Meloni described her trip as a demonstration of the will to begin a new phase to relaunch their bilateral cooperation. She also said the two countries have signed an agreement that aims to boost cooperation on electric vehicles and renewable energy.
Sri Lanka's Ganga Senaviratne finished first in the women's 100-meter backstroke heats at the 2024 Paris Olympics.
Ganga Senaviratne participated in the women's 100-meter backstroke heats today. She recorded a time of 1 minute 4.26 seconds. D. Donnelly from Mozambique came in second, while A. Primova from Turkmenistan was placed third.
It's a wonderful opportunity. I just finished my event at Olympic Games. Very happy about my time, and I just did best for my country. And I'd like to thank everyone who helped me to get here today. My parents and my sister, and my coach and my assistant coaches and my team who helped me to get here. Without them, I wouldn't be here today.
However, Ganga did not qualify for the semi-finals based on the performance of the other swimmers following the 5 preliminary rounds held today.
Batting coach Tilna Kandambi says that difficult decisions will have to be reached regarding the Sri Lanka cricket team. He expressed these views at the post-match press conference of the second T20 International between Sri Lanka and India, which was held yesterday.
India won the second T20I against Sri Lanka, held at the Pallekele International Stadium yesterday by 7 wickets to claim a 2-0 series win.
Agreed plan එකට තමයි අපි වැඩ කරන්නේ.
We are working on an agreed plan, but we didn't get results. I think some difficult decisions will have to be reached in the future. Rather than a lack of skills of the players, I think the issue lies in the decisions that they make in that moment. Some difficult decisions will have to be made because we cannot continue like this. When you lose a match, you lose. It doesn't matter whether it's batting or bowling. It is Sri Lanka that loses. When looking at skills, Generally, it may seem that we don't have power, but that is not the case. Because if we look at the stats this year, we have scored as many sixes as other teams. Regardless of how big a six is, at the end of the day, a six will always remain 6 runs. We need to focus more on the decisions we make at the time of delivery.
ගන්න ඕන තීරණ ඒ කියන්නේ ගහන්න ඕන පාරවල් ඒක ගැන තමයි මං හිතන්නේ පොඩ්ඩක් අපි මීට වඩා අවධානය යොමු කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.